the residents of Johannesburg a happy, blessed Ramadan. Some of us are fasting today, and extensively I'm wishing well to all the Muslims that are also fasting with us. Let me also take an opportunity to say we are understanding the plight of the shortages of water, and us being in a position of fasting, which is a dry fast, not even consuming water, you can understand that it hits home. It's something that we are taking very serious, and we can't allow the residents to go a day without water. On Wednesday, I stood in council and commemorated our National Human Rights Day. I spoke of how access to clean water, electricity, and sanitation are basic rights that should be available to all. We are the government that is for the people. We are committed to serve the residents of the city of Johannesburg. If you remember, when we did our first speech, we said we will bring the city manager, and the city manager is sitting here right next to me, and welcome. Congratulations, Mr. Floyd Brink. So it's one of the commitments that we've done, and we are ensuring the city and its residents that we are committed to resolve the issue of scarcity of water in the region. I explained how access to services is enshrined in our constitution, and how the city of Johannesburg dare not to infringe upon these rights. I drew specific attention to the fact that access to clean water is a basic right that every citizen should have. My view on this has not changed. We haven't changed on the access to water. I'm truly burdened by the fact that the residents across various suburbs in our city have no access to water. I too am affected by these water shortages and recognize how untenable the situation is becoming. I have spent the past week ensuring relief measures are being provided to communities, and as I've inspected reservoirs, met with officials, I made sure that tankers are on the ground and help members of the communities to fill their buckets to carry home. The burden of finding proper long-term solution grows urgent. So filling the buckets, it's in its proper context, is not just an abstract. I was there on the ground, inspecting the reservoirs. I was there on the ground, assisting the residents, filling their own buckets and taking them home. Most concerning in this moment of this crisis for our city is the back and forth between Joburg Water and Rand Water, leaving residents bewildered as to who is responsible for the problem. This is eroding the credibility for the communication to affected communities and resulted in a misfortune. Between the MMC responsible for the Joburg Water and myself, we thought it would be prudent to bring entities, Joburg Water and Rand Water, together to truthfully explain what is the crisis. The root cause of the problem, the interventions being put in place to resolve the problem, how long it will take to solve the problems and to restore water to the taps affected, what plans are underway to ensure resilience in the system. It is unfortunate that Rand Water could not join us in this session. We will continue our engagement with Rand Water through the inter-government relations channels, which is the protocols from the political principle, engaging the MECs responsible, engaging the minister that is responsible for water and sanitation. And we'll come back to you as residents, because you are our residents, with an update before the end of the week. Without wasting any time, let me hand over to the MMC of EISD Ntate Jack Sikwaile, who will further elaborate the matters for today's discussion, as I thank you.
Thanks, Executive Mayor. Morning to our residents. Thanks once again, EM. Let me extend the greetings to everybody in the House, all protocol observed. We are having here the MD of Joburg Quarter, City Manager, Mr. Brink, Tsumbo, Chief of Staff in the City of Johannesburg. Colleagues, we are here as an executive or leadership in the City of Johannesburg, necessarily because we take this as the most, in fact, serious issue to face us as we come into administration. We are here today to speak to the residents of the City of Johannesburg about water challenges in the city that the city have experienced in the few weeks, and to provide an update on the progress we are making. Executive Mayor, Councillor Thapelo Ahmad, I normally make jokes around the name of Thapelo. Perhaps I'll explain it later on. The Executive Mayor Thapelo requested me to join him today in order to reassure residents of the City of Johannesburg that the City of Johannesburg is taking this matter seriously and regard it as a high priority to ensure that water flows uninterrupted to taps of our residents across the city. But more importantly, I also requested the MD of Joburg Water, on my right here, to join us so that collectively we can give residents hope that full water supply is restored. So, ladies and gentlemen, the Johannesburg water system has been under immense pressure in the past 10 weeks due to a rainwater experiencing various failures on its bulk infrastructure. The City of Johannesburg is supplied from Eikenhof, Swartkoppies and Palmead booster stations, which were affected by frequent power failures, vandalism to its infrastructure and planned infrastructure maintenance work, which contributed to the low or empty supply of water in our various areas across the city. And I think when the MD come, we'll then perhaps give a detail on what would have happened. I think on the 21st, in fact, of this month, there was vandalism, which on the 22nd I then visited the area to witness rainwater infrastructure being vandalized deliberately. So people opened the concrete slab and throw some stone and break the rainwater valves that supply this area of Johannesburg. Eikenhof, which supplies portions of the south of Johannesburg, west of Johannesburg, Randburg, Rudeport, Soweto, was affected by frequent power failures. Swartkoppies, which supplies the central and northern part of Johannesburg, was affected by vandalism and power failure. Palmead, which supplies portion of the south of Johannesburg, east of Johannesburg and Sandton, which is Midrand, Diepsloot, was affected by frequent power failures and vandalism incidents. We have noted with great concern and sympathy to the mounting frustration from our residents, and we would like to take this opportunity to profusely apologize for the disruption of their daily lives and inconvenience this has caused. The delivery of good quality water sanitation services, which should be accessible to all, remain our main priority to the residents of Johannesburg. Joburg Water is working hard to get our water system back on track and to stabilize the system. We will continue to supply the residents with water via mobile water tankers and stationary tanks located in various strategic areas. The aim is to prioritize needy facilities in the city of Johannesburg. Currently, we have deployed 28 roaming water tankers and 12 stationary water tankers to areas affected by the eNCA system pump failure, which are Robert Shep, Boys and Crosby, Melvin, and Crown Gardens Clinic, to name the few. And I think here we must then indicate to the resident that EM, the challenge that when we put JoJo tanks and you use the water tanker to fill, at some stage when you come, JoJo tanks are gone. So these are one of the challenges that we are facing. We urge residents to work with us on this particular item. We are working closely with ward councillors in all affected areas to assist us to identify central places where we can deploy our stationary tankers and roaming tankers. In order to recover this system faster, Johannesburg Water is busy appointing contractors to assist with the project to link the Hurst Hill 1 reservoir zone with the North Cliff Reservoir inlet pipe work to boost supply into Hurst Hill 1. Work will commence on the 27th of March. Johannesburg Water is also in the process to upgrade the main water supply into JHB Mayor, which forms part of the Brixton system after it was discovered that the pipe diameter had restriction in certain sections. Work to be completed on the 27th of this month. We have also engaged our colleagues at City Power to grant us some reprieve from load shedding in areas that Joburg water system networks. So that what does this mean? It will mean in areas where we feel, Executive Mayor, that we need to really to do something to recover water to our residents. We have requested City Power to examine those areas for load shedding. As I mentioned earlier, the past 10 weeks have been challenging. Joburg Water, Brixton, Crosby, and Hurst Hill 1 and 2 reservoir complexes, which are supplied by Rentwater, Commando Road bulk meter, and supplemented with supply from Redwater Stafford bulk meter, were first affected by the flow rate from the Rentwater Commando meter, which dropped below the 2.5 kilowatt an hour from 13 January 2023. This resulted in the reservoir complexes running at low capacity and not being able to supply water in Ward 58, 69, and 86, and Ward 87. Some of the areas include Rahima Musa, Helen Joseph Hospital, and University of Johannesburg. Also on the same day, there were power failures that affected Rentwater at Zekebosch purification plant, which resulted in the plant only operating at 60% capacity. And the Rentwater eNCA pump station was also affected by power failure. This event affected the Johannesburg Water Commando system, which supplies the Crosby, Brixton, Hurst Hill 1 and 2 reservoirs. The high-lying areas supplied by Hurst Hill 2 were affected and resulted in intermittent water supply in the areas of Melvin, Parktown, and Auckland Park. The above events with higher than normal temperature then resulted in Rentwater storage's capacity dropping to 30%, and some reservoir supply municipalities dropping to below 15%. In the case of Johannesburg, the Rentwater Waterval Reservoir were below 15% and affected the water supply into our Commando system. On the 29th of January, Rentwater again experienced a power failure in their eNCA pump station. This incident caused the Rentwater waterfall as well as a Meerdale reservoir supplying the city of Johannesburg, western and southern areas, Randburg, Rudeport, to drop to zero storage capacity until power was restored the following day. From 13 February to 17 February, Johannesburg Water Crosby Pump had a pump failure which resulted in the station only pumping at 50% capacity to the Brixton Reservoir and Tower. From the 25th of February to 26, Rentwater experienced problems with their filters at the Vereeniging purification work, which led to a reduction of 200 megaliter a day pumping capacity at their Ekenhof pump station, which then affected the levels of the Meerdale and Waterfall Reservoir. On the 1st of March, the 8th and 11th, Rentwater experienced power failure at their Zekerbot and Vereeniging purification work, impacting 50% of their pumping capacity at their Ekenhof pump station, which then affected the water supply to their Meerdale and Waterfall reservoirs. So this week, on the 20th of March, Rentwater experienced a power supply problem at their Vereeniging purification work, impacting their ability to supply water to their Ekenhof pump station and affecting the Rentwater, Meerdale and Waterfall reservoir. Thereafter, on the 21st of March, Rentwater experienced a power trip at their Ekenhof pump station, affecting the pumping output by 200 megaliter a day, therefore affecting supply to their Meerdale and Waterfall reservoirs again. Due to the aforementioned incidents, the Crosby, Brixton and Hastings systems in west of Johannesburg, Linden, one reservoir in Tower, Honeydew Reservoir, and Boshoff Reservoir in Rambek, Waterfall, Quirenia, and Constantia, Helder-Crane Tower and Helder-Crane Reservoir in Rudaport were at critical low level or empty. This affected the supply area of this reservoir in towers as residents experienced poor pressure or no water at all. With regard to the pumping system configuration, the February vandalism incident and power failure in March contributed to the low capacity in various areas. Due to this aforementioned incident, the South Hills Tower in south of Johannesburg, Alexander Park, Linsfield, and Randjaglachte Reservoir in the east of Johannesburg, President Park Reservoir and Tower, Rubber Ridge Reservoir and Tower, and Grand Central Tower in Midrand were at critical low levels or empty. This then affected the supply areas of this reservoir and towers as residents experienced poor pressure or no water supply up to 27 February, with the exception of Alexander Park, which only recovered from on the 4th of March 2023, and the South Hill Tower, which was only back at consistent water supply on the 18th of March. The Swartkopies pump station could not always pump at full capacity due to frequent power failures in February and March. The Crown Garden Reservoir was also affected over the past 2 weeks, but especially due to the vandalism incident, which resulted into no flow into the reservoir and towers for 2 days. The reservoirs and towers are frequently being recovered in that pumping into the towers commenced again on the 25th of March, and the reservoirs was opened at 50% level. The area of Robert Shem, Omand, and surrounding areas were the most affected. Joburg Water has a dedicated team that will regularly inspect and crack down on illegal connection in order to deal with theft and loss of their assets. While we continue to deal with the challenges and ensure taps do not go dry, let us ensure that we conserve water in our communities and also report irresponsible usage of water and illegal connection. Johannesburg Water will implement the following medium-term measures over the next 2 years. Within the Commando supply system to ensure sustainability of the water supply, Joburg Water has placed 402 million investment. Brixton Reservoir Tower and Pump Station plus Crosby configuration. Construction of a new Brixton Reservoir and Tower at around 22 million and Tower at around 1.4 with associated pipe work. Contractor was appointed in December 2022. Work will commence in May 2023 for 18 months at the cost of 292 million. rainwater supply line, new connection from rainwater to supplement supply to Crosby Reservoir with the associated 1 meter diameter bulk supply main. The project will commence in July 2023 for the duration of 14 months and will cost 80 million. 3. The Crosby Pump Station rising mains install a standby generator at Crosby Reservoir to mitigate load shedding and improve pump efficiency to Brixton Reservoir, including construction of a new booster pipe station to supplement water supply to Hastings Reservoir from the Crosby Reservoir with associated pipe work. The project will commence in August 2023 for the duration of 12 months and will cost City 30 million rand. Johannesburg Water will also invest in the following programs: reservoir storage upgrades, water pipe replacement in various regions, water conservation and water demand management, which will include repairs of leaking reservoirs and tower infrastructure. The WC/WDM strategy aims to reduce demand by 37,123 milliliter per annum from technical intervention. Water conservation initiatives will contribute further demand reduction. 4. Bulk pipe renewal upgrade. Johannesburg Water continues to have a big task of supplying 1.6 billion liter of potable water per day procured from rainwater through a water distribution network of 12,369 kilometer, 128 reservoir and water towers, and 37 water pump stations. We want our operations to normalize and fulfill this mandate. We are here to serve our residents of City of Johannesburg, and we would like to say that we shall engage further EM and CM and colleagues with the leadership of rainwater in days to come. Probably next week, mid-next week, we shall have another joint briefing to release a proper briefing that has an input of rainwater, so that they take residents of Johannesburg into confidence on what they are doing on their side to mitigate these challenges and assist us as a city to provide this kind of basic service to our own people. I thank you. Then I shall then hand over to the MD of Joburg Water, Mr. Nchabeni Mukwebo, just to briefly take you through some of the technical aspects of this and how, in fact, we are going to move forward as a city of Johannesburg. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much, MMC. Then we'll go to the MP.
Thank you, MMC and Executive Mayor and CM. And good morning, ladies and gentlemen. There are just few issues that I just want to clarify or emphasize on. Firstly is the issue around the water supply cycle. Just to indicate that as Johannesburg Water or City of Johannesburg, I'm sure some of the residents are aware that we don't actually purify water. We get on daily basis 1.6 billion liters, as was mentioned by the MMC, purified by rainwater, and then we distribute to our customer. So that's very important, because if you look at some of the systems that were hard hit, which I'm going to zoom into them just for a minute or two, you'll see that the main challenge that we're having is the required volume, which was not necessarily there. And that becomes a challenge for us if that required volume is not there, because we won't be able to meet demand for our residents. Let me start with the issue of the Crown Gardens. The Executive Mayor visited Crown Gardens on Sunday last week. And when he visited Crown Gardens, at that particular point, of course, the bigger part of the zone we were able to supply continuously. Because both towers for Crown Gardens were full on Sunday, and the level of the reservoir was about 1.5 meter, which then forced us to open the reservoir at only 50%. And when we do that, the area that gets affected is certain streets in Robertsham, but the bigger part of the zone had water. And I'm raising this because some of the residents were really keeping on asking the question to say why the situation deteriorated by Wednesday, whereas on Sunday, the supply was really much stable than what it ended up being on Wednesday. And on Sunday, when we're engaging with the residents, we were saying we're hoping that in the next 2 days or so, we should be able to be restoring water even in Robertsham. So what happened, I'm sure you'll have seen the statement that was released by Johannesburg Water on Wednesday, indicating that there is a vandalism that happened around Midval for a pipeline for rainwater. Our MMC visited it even on Wednesday afternoon when the team of rainwater were busy fixing that. That particular line supplies water to Swartkopies. From Swartkopies, then rainwater pumps the water through what they refer to as Forest Hill system, which then supplies the Forest Hill reservoirs. Then we also pump from that reservoir to our own tower, but the same line supply Crown Gardens. That's the main issue that caused the issue to the supply of water from Crown Gardens to deteriorate from what it was on Sunday to Wednesday, whereby the entire zone didn't have water, simply because when that vandalism happened, rainwater could not pump the required volume, which is 200 megaliters per day. They could only pump 100 megaliters per day, simply because other lines were out of service while they were busy addressing the issue of the vandalism. The air valves that were vandalized, the repair work started on Wednesday, but it was only finalized, the last part of it was finalized on Thursday. Hence, we started only on Friday or Thursday night to start process of bringing back the system. Unfortunately, is that whenever the system affected, and at the end where you find that there was no required volume coming through and reservoir gets dry, to bring them back takes time. We were able to, yesterday, to start supplying water for the tower zones. We're able to supply, and there's water currently. And the reservoir zone, we're able to start yesterday as well, supplying at 50% outlet, which is open, which means now we have only restricted the challenge to Robertsham while we're busy trying to bring the reservoir back fully. And what we are projecting is that we still need the pressure to that for the backline supplying that particular reservoir to improve. It's currently still low, and it's issues that our back supply, they're dealing with it through continuously pumping the required volume of 200 megaliters or so. 200 megaliters, which we hope that in the next 2 days or so, we should be able to start opening the reservoir fully once the level, both at rainwater, have picked up, because our level downstream can only pick up once their level of pickup. Then we'll be able to open the reservoir fully. And the reason why we can't open fully is we want to restrict the current challenge, the challenge of water supply, because if we open fully, we're going to lose that reservoir, which will simply mean that we'll have a bigger area within Crown Gardens that doesn't have water. Zooming in also to the issue around the, which was touched by MMC, to the issue around the Commando system. Commando system, basically, some residents, I'm sure by now you're aware, when we say Commando, we are talking about the Crosby, Brixton, as well as Hestel reservoirs. Those are the reservoirs in our own system that are very sensitive to any changes that happen on the back system. So all this frequent interruption that MMC was articulating in his statement, indeed, that is the area that is really hard hit, because it relies on the head or level of reservoir upstream, meaning the level of our back supplier, that it must always be at 50% plus. Once it goes lower than that, we feel it within that particular supply system, because that necessary head to make us to get the necessary volume that MMC have mentioned in his statement, we ended up not getting that volume. So part of the work that, of course, we have interim measure that we are doing, issues of making sure that we stabilize that system through upgrading some of the line linking the Hestill zone with neighboring zone and so on. But the long-term issue is what you've mentioned, so that we want to remove reliance for the Hestill on the head or level of the reservoir for rainwater, so that we rather pump water within our system, so that even when the reservoirs are low, that particular area could still have water. And I mention this because whenever this interruption happens, it could be, I'll give an example with the western part of Johannesburg, or the greater Roodepoort, because Roodepoort is on the same system with the Commando system. But whenever this interruption happens, you'll find that greater Roodepoort, all the way to Randburg, we get water restored within a day or two worst case scenario. But Commando system will battle for a week, 2 weeks, and so on. Simply because there are certain things that we also want to do to make sure that we eliminate the issue of relying fully on the level of rainwater for us to be able to get the necessary flow that we require for that particular system. Thank you very much, CM, EM, and MMC. Thank you, Tatis.
Thank you very much, MD. Colleagues, as we all know, this is a media briefing, but we do welcome members of the public that are here. But the idea is really to get the media to be able to communicate some of these messages with the general public, so that at least residents of Johannesburg are fully informed and are aware. We proactively engage with them and inform them of some of the interventions that we are trying to put forward. At this point, I will open up for Q&A. The panel is here: the Executive Mayor, the City Manager, the MMC, the MD. For technical questions, really, your MD and City Manager will come in handy to assist us. But when you stand up, can we ask you, members of the media, to introduce yourself and say which media house you're coming from, and then pose your question. Thank you very much. I will open up for the first round of questions.
Sorry, Program Director. I think we as a public, we should be afforded the right to ask questions that affect us. And it should not be restricted to the media only. We are taxpayers, we are ratepayers, we pay taxes. And I think you should afford us the right to ask questions. We've heard the story. We want to know when did you realize this is a crisis? And where are the interventions, immediate interventions? It is not going to be about JoJo's and water trials. We've heard that August, and then another 14 months. This is not fair, it is not right. We are ratepayers. Okay.
Yes, we won't restrict members of the public to ask questions, but we are using the platform of the media as well to reach as many people as possible. But you can also, as members of the public, jump in and ask. So I was explaining to the members of the media, you stand up, you introduce yourself, your media house, and then you pose a question, and then we'll decide who is most suitable in the panel to be able to respond to your question, depending whether it's a technical or it's a generic question.
Thank you very much, Program Director. Look, my name is Lunga from the Citizen newspaper. My question is directly to the Mayor. I don't know if maybe you guys spoke about this, but there seems to be political gimmicks between the DA-led coalition and the ANC-led coalition when it comes to the issues faced by the Cliftown people. We know that those people do not have sanitation, and you guys are saying that you want to build them houses before you can build toilets. Now, here's the thing. We know from the MEC, that Gauteng does not really have budget to build houses. When you say you voted against that motion on the weekend, what is really your plan? What are your plans, Mayor? Because we know that the province does not have money to build RDP houses. Where are you going to get money? And for temporary relief, what do these people do? Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, we'll take another question, and before we go to the panel.
Good morning. I'm Alfara Mushwana from Eyewitness News. I have a couple of questions for the leaders here. The first one is to the MMC, and the Mayor. the previous administration and your predecessors, Michael Son and Dr. Mpopalate, before they were booted out of office, they had mentioned that they were going to bring in independent power producers to come and mitigate the effects of load shedding and ultimately end this water crisis in the city. Will you be continuing with that project, or has it been on hold ever since the previous administration left office? This question I would have loved to ask it to the Rand Water, but I hope the MD for Joburg Water can answer this one. Don't you think perhaps you need some sort of relief from depending solely on ESCOM, perhaps coming up with systems that don't rely on ESCOM, but maybe your own solar systems, so that it doesn't affect your pumping capacity, and rainwater doesn't affect the levels of water in your reservoirs in the city? Do you think that could maybe mitigate these water issues in the city? And then this question, I will pose it to the mayor. We've been here as a city before. I remember when Councillor Dadamurero was mayor. In his 25 days, he did the same visit to water reservoirs, because we were experiencing the same issues in Johannesburg. And some of the measures that were outlined here by the MMC sound, they are not permanent solutions, but are interim solutions to the water crisis. What permanent solutions will be put in place to ensure that this doesn't happen every 2 months like it has been happening in the past year?
Okay, are you done? Thank you very much. Yeah, you had a number of questions. Yeah, let's hand over to the panel. The Executive Mayor will lead, and the Executive Mayor will allocate responses accordingly. Over to you, Executive Mayor. The mics. Okay, sorry. Let me deal with the mics, colleagues. Give us a few minutes so that we don't lose sound. Everybody gets a proper audio.
Thank you so much. Let me acknowledge the public that is here. Whenever I engaged the public, I've pleaded with the general public not to politicize the plight of the people, because the lack of water is a serious plight, and we can't be coming here and throwing politics. We've engaged the public, we've issued communiques. Joburg Water has issued various statements which were shared with councillors in those particular communities. But we acknowledge that our communications lines were not that effective, hence why I took it upon myself to go on the ground, and whichever community member that I've met with the technical team, we've managed to disseminate that particular information. And the very same community members, they've also recorded our representations. So we were anticipating that would have been shared to the general community. But going to Lunga's from the citizens' point of view, I'm in no liberty to speak of the DA or nor the ANC who are in government. We are incumbent now. The people of Kliptown, if you look at Kliptown, it was spatially marginalized. It's a historic thing that we need to repeal as the current sitting government. We have attempted to meet the public sector, because we also believe in consultation, and we also believe in stakeholder engagement. So there is a piece of land that was that one of the people that we've engaged in Kliptown, we can do at the minimum, phase by phase, but there's an appetite from the residents of Johannesburg who are philanthropists, who said, Mr. Mayor, we want to readdress the spatial injustices of the past and also create the corridors of the economy in Kliptown. So we have earmarked this particular piece of land. Can the city assist? And can the city intervene for us to get that piece of land so that we can build a warehouse and employ people. And the people who are inhabiting that piece of land, we as a company, Company X, that I mean no liberty to mention the name of the company, we will relocate these people and will build the houses for them. So these are the engagements that we are doing as this government. We are engaging the people out there. In as much as the time factor, the pace is very slow, but there is something that we are doing, and there is a commitment from the residents who are truly feeling that the city of Johannesburg is decaying, and it is upon us as the residents to arrest the situation as a collective, the residents, the private sector, and the government, because as government, we can do this much, but we need the support from the general public. So you spoke about sanitations. We believe that when those houses are built, it won't only be a temporary relief. It will be a long-term solution. But we can do this much. I'm not saying we are going to build houses for the entire Kliptown, but I'm saying as a starting phase, this is what we are able to do. And then secondly, ENW Alpha. Of course, the Joburg water, as indicated by the MMC and the MD, we are working on a solution to be independent from the rainwater, right? And us being independent, it will also give us an expression to serve our residents in an effective way. There are measures that are placed by Joburg Water that I wouldn't go deeper into, not that I'm not familiar with them, but the MD is here to further articulate, because some of them are more technical than what I would say on a face value. So I will allow the MD to cover that aspect on what measures have we placed, what is it that we're going to do. Are we also pursuing the IPP? Yes, of course we do pursue the IPPs. What Councillor Dada Morero, when Councillor Dada Morero visited the reservoirs, and he, in your words, there was never a permanent solution. We were disrupted, unfortunately, because I was part of that government of local unity when Dada Morero was leading the government. So these were the measures that we placed as government that was led by Dada Morero then. And it's a baton that I need to carry to move forward in resolving the issues. MD, you may come in on that aspect. Thank you so much.
Thanks, EM. The second question from Alpha. Indeed, if my colleagues from Render were here, they were going to give you much more information around what they are doing regarding the energy supply to their plant. In the conversation with them, some of the things that they are doing, there's a lot of engagement that's happening, because I'm sure you'll have realized that in the recent month, the main power failures that happen, and I must indicate this is not load shedding, power failures that happen, it's happening mainly in Val at their plants. And some of these plants are supplied by Mfuleni municipalities. So there's a lot of engagement that's happening between Rainwater and Mfuleni around issues of making sure that the power supply to their plant is stable, because there are often the deep power dips that happen and trips that happen too often, which then affects their ability to purify water up here in Johannesburg and other neighboring metro, like Ekurhuleni and Tshwane and so on. So they are looking at that in terms of how can they make sure that the Mfuleni, they do what needs to be done in making sure that the power is stable to their plant. But secondly, they are also looking at the issues around emergency power supply in their pump station like Ekenhof, which we know that they are looking at the issues of generators, even though they've indicated, because these are plants that really use a lot of power, that they may not be able to run the full plant or full pump station, but at least you know, it won't be like when there's a power failure at that particular pump station, it won't be a situation where they can't be able to pump it all. They may be able to pump it 50%. So those are some of the plans that they've been really sharing with us. And I think if you followed the minister's media briefing that took place, I think about 2 weeks back or so, these are some of the things that was articulated at that particular media briefing by our colleagues from Rainwater. On your second question, Alpha, around, so what is the permanent solution for this? And that is, if you allow me, I'm going to link it to the question from the community member earlier to say the interim measure should not be about water tankers only. So I'm going to start with that to say, from the infrastructure point of view, what are we doing as an interim measure? Because, of course, water tankers is not what the residents, especially of Commando, they want to hear, especially because they've been affected for too long whenever this water supply challenges happen. So from the interim measure, on the infrastructure on our side, what are we doing? One, we have decided that even though from the water management point of view it's not the ideal, we've decided that we are linking the Hest Hill zone with the North Cliff zone. So in the last week, we're busy with all the preparatory work after the engineers have done the modeling to tell us how the system is going to perform and so on. And our own operation team, they were busy making sure that they get all the necessary material and so on. And the work that will require, there's some form of specialized activity that will happen, which will require also us bringing a specialized contractor. And we went through a process of requesting the quotation and so on. And as I talk to you now, this whole process has been finalized to appoint that contractor so that tomorrow we can start with that particular work of linking Hest Hill 1 with North Cliff. Because, I mean, whenever we go through this thing, you've never heard about North Cliff being affected. Because it's a very stable zone. It's got enough bulk supply for that zone. But we've done the modeling to say, can we be able to assist Hest Hill? Yes, we can be able to. And that work, we are aiming to start it tomorrow. And it's a work that will take us about a week or so of doing that construction work that we are going to be linking the zone. So we are aiming that by after 7 to 10 days, we should be done with that particular work that we'll be doing to make sure that we boost the water from the bulk point of view for Hest Hill through this link that we are doing. The second issue is what our own team have been doing around Jan Hofmeyer in the past week, making sure that we do some other cross connection within Jan Hofmeyer, because whenever we open the Brixton Reserve for 50% only, the people within Jan Hofmeyer, they don't get water. So that we're doing it so that we can be able to improve pressure within the Jan Hofmeyer. This is the work that's still happening even while we are here, and we are aiming that will be concluded there tomorrow so that we can be able to get the pressure within Jan Hofmeyer improved. I must indicate these are the temporary measure or the interim measure from the infrastructure so that we can be able to have a sustainable water supply in the area or continuous water supply within Commando around those areas that are affected. So the long-term plan or permanent plan, Alpha, what is it exactly? As I've indicated earlier, the question that everyone asks is, but why only Commando that's always get affected in the city of Johannesburg? The reason is this Commando system, and unfortunately, you know, it would have been good if I was flighting this schematic, because I just want to take you through to answer your question, how the Commando system works. Commando system relies, like any other system, on water from rainwater. At the Commando road, that's where the bulk meter is. And that bulk meter must give us 2,500 kiloliters per hour of any at any given time of a day. And usually whenever there are problem upstream, whether that problem is at Ekenhof, whether that problem is in Val, we'll first see it immediately at Commando. Because why? We won't be able to get that 2,500 kiloliters per hour. It just drops. We can show you graphs around this because there's logger there that picks up what is the flow of water at any given point. And the reason being that Commando relies on the reservoir upstream for our bulk supplier, the Waterfall reservoir upstream. And for Commando to be a bulk line coming from our bulk supplier, for it to push water at 2,500 kilos per hour, that reservoir must be at least at about 2,000, so at about 50%. When it's lower than 50%, it can't, that line won't be able to have pressure. That's the challenge that we have. And for a bulk supply to keep that reservoir at 50% plus is so difficult whenever there are all these challenges upstream of power failure that are affecting the production of water, power failure that are affecting the pumping of water. So this 2,500, when it comes through, as I say, it's relying on the head from our bulk supply, rainwater. The water goes to our Crosby pump station by gravity. From Crosby, we then pump that water to our Brixton reservoir. It's the same line with, flowing with the pumping head from rainwater. It supplies our Hastile 1 and 2. And within the Commando, Hastile is the reservoir that always battle to recover. The reason being, Brixton, it recovers, even though, it doesn't get to a stable state simply because we are also using it to supplement Hastile. It recovers quick because we pump from our Crosby pumping to Brixton. So this Hastile is relying on the head or on the pressure from rainwater, which is something that we want to eliminate from City of Johannesburg point of view. So what are we going to do? The investment that MMC articulated to say the city is going to invest 402 million rand. One, we are going to build a reservoir, a new reservoir and a new tower at Brixton. That's fine. Two, which is critical to the recovery in the main, so that this system Commando must recover like any other system in Johannesburg, where if there's interruption, system must recover 24 hours or so. It mustn't take forever. We are going to be upgrading the pipeline from rainwater point to our point. But importantly, we are going to build a new pump station. So the pump station at Crosby is not going to pump to Brixton only. It's now going to pump to Hastile as well. Why we want to pump to Hastile? So that even when the reservoirs for rainwater are very low, we can still be able to get water through pumping to Hastile, so that we don't rely on that reservoir that it must be at 50%. So we want a situation where even reservoir, if it's at 5%, the Commando must still get the volume that it requires, and you can do that through issues of making sure that you are pumping water on that particular pipeline. So what we refer to as medium-term measure or permanent, what we refer as a permanent solution, it's a project that we are aiming that it should be completed within the next 18 months or so. We should be done with that particular project of making sure that we are doing or we are bringing all the new back infrastructure, importantly, including the pumping of water, so that we don't necessarily rely on the head from our bulk supplier. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much, MD. Executive Mayor wants to add a few points. And then MMC, if you have anything to add after the Executive Mayor, you can jump in. You don't have to wait for me.
So, thank you so much before acknowledging you, Lunga. So I wanted to also reiterate the fact that this is an ongoing crisis, and we understand that we need to intervene one way or the other, because the residents, they are upset. But also stretching to say it is not only the city of Johannesburg, because this is an issue with rainwater. I wanted to take an opportunity to reiterate that the crisis is not only the city of Johannesburg, but it is also extending to other regions like Ekurhuleni, in Benoni, the Rustenburg, because it's supplied by the rainwater, the Rainwest, that region, which is part of closer to our region. So I also wanted to say, to take the opportunity that in as much as you might want to claim from the media's point of view or from the communities, from all the mayors and the MMCs that you've made reference to, this is the only mayor who has ensured that at least twice in a week is visiting those affected areas. And also, to show that we are a government that is caring for the people, we've also allowed the community to come in here so that they can also raise their grievances. We're not hiding anything from media, hence why you can see some of you are silently protesting right here, because we care. We can't be a government that speaks for you without you. We are a government for the people. We speak to the challenges that are faced, but there's also limitations and protocols. Hence why we are allowing this setup. We are not here to play politics. We are here because this is a serious plight that we need to focus on and give it a priority in amongst all the issues of service delivery that the city of Johannesburg is facing. As I thank you.
Thank you very much. CM wants to say something.
No, thank you very much, Executive Mayor, MMCs and colleagues. Mine is just to provide clarity with regard to the 402 million that the MD has mentioned with regard to those projects. The community member did indicate, give us an indication of when. So that is in the 2023-24 financial year, as we are now out on public participation with our budget. What is it that we're going to do? And I don't want to get too technical, but we will be focusing on 5 regions at this particular point as we are moving in, only on the bulk pipe renewal or the upgrades. It's the peri-urban bulk line, Alexander Reservoir bulk supply, the Lenasia Reservoir bulk supply, Alexandra Township bulk supply, supply from Aeroton to Orlando, and the primary supply to El Dorado Park. I just thought, Executive Mayor, it should be clear that we understand in terms of the date and the period, the duration of this particular period, and the projects that we will be implementing. And of course, if you need much more detail to a lower level to indicate you at which stages of construction or planning these projects are, you can then also then have that discussion with the Joburg Water team that will then indicate to you how these projects will be implemented. Thanks.
Thank you very much. PM, MMC, do you want to say something, or you covered before I open? Okay. Then I will open for the next round. Yeah.
No, thanks, colleagues. Just in short, I just want maybe to touch on the matter raised by the gentleman there around independent power producers. I think he mentioned that the previous administration had a particular view which we might not have full details of, but I think with the newly established board of City Power, we visited Kelvin Power Station that we all know that it previously owned by City. We are getting, I think it's giving us 10% of electricity comes from them. So our suspicion was that they would have had interest to utilize the decommissioned power plants there that uses diesel to then produce more, but at a cost factor. I think what was not clarified was that if you go that route, you might suffer what ESCOM is suffering now of expensive and exorbitant diesel price, which we think that the city is very unaffordable. But on our visit with the board of City Power, and we met the CEO of Kelvin here, is that they are intending, because they are decommissioned but they are still there. Now we want to remove them. There's a project in place which will start very soon this year to then remove them and build a gas power plant. So they are going to replace that diesel with a gas. In this case, you'll find that gas is more cheaper as compared to diesel. And gas is also have the capacity to then produce a maximum amount of power needed by a resident. I just wanted to touch it there. Thanks very much.
Okay, thank you. Let's open for the last round of questions.
Mr. Mayor, I still want to answer. I'm not satisfied. Yes, an answer is an answer, but I'm not satisfied with what you said. Mr. Mayor, the question that I asked, I said during the week, you were part of those who voted against the motion of ex-NSA to build projects there. You have been saying that you want to build RDP houses for this country. That's what you have been advocating for in the ANC-led coalition. I'm not saying previous, I'm saying this one that we are in now, that you are part of. I am asking you, yes, you have the toilet you said you don't want to do. Where are you going to get that budget? We know from the Gauteng government that there is no money to build RDPs. They are saying what they want to do now is to give people land so they can build for themselves. what are your plans? When are these people going to get the houses that you guys are saying you want to build instead of building them toilet to give them dignity? That's what I'm asking, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Thank you, Lunga. I don't know which one of the coalitions you are making reference to, because this current coalition is not led by the ANC. But answering your question, Mtate Lunga, I'm saying to you, what your question, right, doesn't need rocket science. I'm telling you of the low-hanging prospects where, as government, could be seen delivering to our residents. And those low-hanging prospects are the ones that I'm making reference to say we are engaging with various stakeholders, including intergovernmental relations. But which comes first? We will expedite those processes to provide services and adequate service delivery to our residents, which is adequate sanitation, water and sanitation, which is the toilets that you are making reference to, and the houses. And from the private sector's point of view, or the company that I've met, they did not talk about the RDP. Hence why I said it's a unique situation, but we need to do something nonetheless. We can't say if there's a community member who wants to assist the city, and then we block them on the basis that we are waiting for province. It would be unfair, as I submit, my brother. Thank you.
Okay. I'll recognize you, sir. You can speak and introduce yourself and which
My name
community.
is Solly Khan. I'm from Robertshire. I live in Robertshire, and I think the area has been adequately covered in terms of the problems that exist there. So it's a known problem, but I think there are other communities also that experience a similar problem. Okay, I want to make a comment firstly. Okay, I think as politicians and as public servants that are seated here, I'm sure you understand that this is a systemic problem. Okay, now if it is a systemic problem, then one needs to understand what the issues are from the public servants that work at the city. For example, there are 2 streets in Robertshire that I know of where repairs were done to the pipes that were leaking, and those holes, or whatever you want to call them, have been left open. So it is someone else that has to take care of that type of problem to cover the hole. It's not the people who are responsible for fixing the water leaks. Okay, so that's one problem, you know, that I'm pointing out to you and related to my point that I'm making, that it's a systemic problem. 2, we know that there's a 3-tier government system in our country. And like correctly pointed out by the MMC, there's this intergovernmental relationship that is supposed to be happening. I'm very, very disappointed as a ratepayer that Rand Water is not here to address the issues. I like how the MD has responded and provided very clearly in layman's terms to understand what the system depends on from Joburg City and Joburg Water point of view. I really appreciate that type of input that was given to us. So then the problem lies with the intergovernmental relationship that Joburg City is supposed to be having. So the politicians that are sitting there, you see, we are fed up of this musical chair that goes around, and we are not interested in the musical chair because the problems remain the same, irrespective of who the role players are, as far as politicians are concerned. So we are fed up. We are paying rates, and our rates are going to be increasing. For what services? I ask the question as a ratepayer. Because the services that we are getting are below par. And I think one has to really have a rethink of the motto that's written there. Joburg, a world-class African city. And I'm sure there are African cities in our continent that are doing much, much more better than the type of services that are being delivered by this city. I know there's a lot of instability, but that's not our problem. We are paying our rates, and we want services that we deserve to have. So that's the message that I leave with you.
Thank you very much. I think the leadership is taking note of your comments and your frustrations. And as the mayor has indicated, there is a whole lot of work that is happening to try and alleviate the pressure that is experienced by our residents on the ground. Hence, the executive mayor is constantly on the ground to try and see for himself and feel the pressures that the people are feeling, so that he comes in there hands-on and try to assist where he can. But the leadership can also add if there are any other issues. Oh, there's another hand. Okay.
My name is Ali. I'm also from the Robert Sham area. I'm part of the Robert Sham Action Group. We want to know what type of solutions for our problem. Now, our problem is basically rainwater's problem, because rainwater is not giving enough or sufficient supply, and it's affecting our area. Now, we want to know, how long are we going to wait? So, in other words, if rainwater never supplies the full capacity, we will never see water in our area, because that's exactly the situation. Because what happens in our area, and I'm talking about Robert Sham, I think all of you are aware there's about 25 streets in Robert Sham that get absolutely affected when there's any type of disruption. Whether it's load shedding, whether it's a pipe bust, whether somebody's interfering with the pipes, and vandalism, which is a new one anyway, we've heard now, right? Vandalism seems to be a new excuse on the table. But we want to know, what is your immediate, especially with Joburg Water, because when we met up with Joburg Water, your officials were simply dismissive of us. We felt so embarrassed, so disappointed, and so hurt by the actions of Joburg Water, because Joburg Water simply said, not our problem, go to rainwater. Now, you must understand us. We are the client. You are our supplier, Joburg Water. We've got nothing to do with rainwater. But rainwater is who we must go and see. Why? Now, when you spoke about all of these plans, I didn't hear anything in your plan about what you're going to do to solve our problem. Because even if you have bulk water tomorrow, it's not going to help us. We are still going to get bits and pieces of water because of the way your own infrastructure is set up. I mean, you gave us explanations about the 600mm pipes and 110mm pipe. You know, simple people like us who don't understand all these technicalities, all we want to know, what can you do to provide us with water? Don't send us to rainwater. We don't know who they are. We pay you. Joburg City, we pay you. You pay Joburg Water. You are the people that must answer to us, not rainwater. You must put pressure on rainwater. Why must we put pressure on rainwater? You know how much money? Go and check what we are paying as ratepayers in Robert Sham. And you will see, Mayor and others, ratepayers in Robert Sham are up to date with their rates. We pay our rates, but we expect services with that. Water is a fundamental human right. You are denying us a fundamental human right. And you know what irks us is that nobody cares. Mayor, you might sound like you're caring now. Wonderful. And we applaud them. We'll support you, Mayor. But come and help us. We want to say to Joburg Water, work with us, the Robert Sham residents. We'll tell you where the problems are, and we'll work with you to assist in resolving the problem. The problem of the 600mm pipeline, we think we've got solutions for you. But you know what your official says? Not our problem. Now, we want that to stop. We want to work with you. You know what? We are not a bunch of hooligans in the communities. We don't go around burning things down. We don't go around disrupting and burning tires and stopping people from going to work. But if this is not going to get solved in the next couple of days, then unfortunately, the residents are going to have to take up arms into their own hands. We're going to do things that we don't like to do. Because why? It sounds like nobody listens until you make a big noise or you cause disruption. I mean, is that the way we should go? We are a civilized community. Let's talk to each other. We want Joburg Water to talk to us, please. Because your officials at the Southdale depot, to be honest with you, I think those people need to be replaced because they don't even know how to communicate with community. We go in there, we end up looking like a bunch of idiots. You know what it made me feel like? That he was doing me a special favor to meet up with me to tell me what the problem is. I mean, it should have been the other way around. I'm the special person because I'm the client. But that person thinks he is more important than me, is more important than the whole community. In fact, he thinks he's more important than the mayor too. And what he does, he shoves us off to Randwater. Please, we want solutions for Robertshire. We've heard anything else, we want solutions for Robertshire. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I will give to the panel to respond. I don't know if the executive mayor will want to lead, or should I give it straight to MD? Or MMC?
No, I'll conclude with this, the MD can take it there.
Okay, MD first, and then the MC will conclude.
Thanks. The first question from and that is solely there. I will engage with you immediately after this, but let me deal with the issue from the process point of view, especially around those 2 excavations that we are saying were left after a work that was done, because I need details around that so that I can be able to take it up with my management in operation. So the system, how it works, immediately after we repair the best, we come back and backfill the excavation within 5 days. And why do we wait for 5 days? There are 2 things. One, as you know, we are dealing with water. We want the material to get dry first so that we can have proper backfill, proper compaction that meet engineering standards. Secondly, we want to make sure that that pipe that we've repaired, there must be a follow-up inspection to make sure that it's not going to give us any problem or is there no further leaks. That's why we leave it for about 5 days. And after that 5 days, of course, once we've backfilled the area, that's how we need to now start working on the restatement for that particular area. I must indicate, however, that I know we've got challenges, and those challenges are things that we're trying to address of the backlog that we have, especially in our region, what we call it central region. Central region covers your area because they've got a lot of best that they experience, and some of the infrastructure within road, some of them are, you know, within road reserve that is really paved. So we are looking at the issue of really assisting in that particular region, the issue of looking at the resources for that particular region so that we can be able to bring this backlog under control. So that our aim, ultimate goal is that within 5 days, the backfilling need to be done. Within further 5 days, we need to be dealing with the issue of restatement. And I know we're not there simply because of issues that we need to do to optimize resources, especially in that particular region. However, I'll get the details around the specifics so that we can be able to deal with it. And the question also from the residents from Robertshire, is it Alan? Eh? Ali. I must really apologize, Ali. It's very unfortunate if the residents, that's how they've been treated by our depot. It's not how it's supposed to be. You can see here from the leaders of the city, they are here to account to residents. And my door is open. I'll be able to put a team together that will be able to engage with the association so that either head office level, senior managers in operation, they can be able to take you through the system for Robertshire the same way that I articulated the system for Commando, and also demonstrate to you what is it that we can be able to do. We'll be able to do some assessment to say, is it other things that we need to do above the issue of the back supply, similar like what we're doing in the Commando system. So I'll get your detail after this. So I'll create that platform where from head office level they'll be able to, the association can be engaged with and be given proper information of what's happening. But I must indicate that we are not really just sitting and not push Randwater. And I agree, you are our customer. You know, you are our customer. We must engage with you. We must go and deal with our own issues that is there in the system with Randwater. So what we are engaging with is to make sure, or what commitment that we've got from Randwater is that they are going to make sure that they continuously pump 200 megaliters from their Swarkopis, pumping it into a Forest Hills system, which then Forest Hills system, the same system which supplies Robertshire. That will assist in bringing back the reservoir to a level that we want, which we won't have to close the outlet during the night, and we won't have to only operate the outlet at 50%. So if you look at the entire zone for Crown Gardens, as I've indicated, the area that's affected from yesterday, yes, we had a situation from Wednesday to Friday, which the entire zone didn't have water because of the burst that happened at Mid-Val. But from yesterday, we were able to get the zone back. But of course, LIVESTREAM is still without water, those streets that we articulated. The reason being, we are operating still at 50% of the outlet, simply because the reservoir is not yet at the level that it should be. And if we ever take a risk and open it fully now, we'll end up going back to the situation we had on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, where the entire zone won't have water. And I'm sure you'll agree with me, Ali, that it becomes a nightmare to manage, because you have got a larger community without water. Water tankers are just not enough when you've got that larger community. So we are trying to contain this while rainwater is ramping up in making sure that they are pushing 200. So our expectation is that within the next 2 days or so, as long as they are pumping 200 megaliters, we should be able to get to a point that the pressure on the inlet improves and we open that outlet valve fully, and then the area, LIVESTREAM, will be able to get a sufficient supply. And I must indicate from the bulk supply point of view, MMC and CM, we did some work. I mean, you'll recall, Ali, that there at Crown Gardens Complex, there's a tower which was completed about 18 months back.
That's when our problem started.
Yes, 18 months back or so. But the tower is not part of the problem. Tower is there as a solution, because the problem could be worse if we don't have got our own bulk infrastructure. Tower, we're making sure that in that area you have bulk infrastructure to require. So there's no need for bulk infrastructure within Crown Gardens. It's more operational thing, you know, from our bulk supply to our coming to us, which needs to be dealt with. From the infrastructure, I'm happy that we have the necessary bulk infrastructure that's required for that particular area. But this platform that I'm going to set up for the association will be able to engage and give you more information which will help the community. Thanks.
No, thanks very much, colleagues, but let's also appreciate the media houses here who came just to assist us as the city and community to be properly updating our own resident in Johannesburg. We can see even our eyes tired, some of us, we are not sleeping. You would have seen the mayor himself carrying buckets, assisting communities. So we will have those sleepless nights up until this issue of water is resolved and restored across the city. So we'd like to pledge with our own colleagues as ward councillors in various areas where the PR to then communicate a proper message so that this matter is not used as a political ball or point scoring. We really plead with them very hardly, so this is a human rights issue that must be looked at. It didn't start now, it started some months ago. But we are new administration. We're not blaming everybody. We are new. We'll do whatever that is due from us to be done without blaming whoever. That's why we'll have this sleepless night. But we're just pleading with them. Spread correct messages. Work with us. Communicate with us as MMCs, and indicate as a ward councillor. This is where you need water tankers. This is where you need community need assistance. We'll do so. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much, leadership. Let me take the opportunity to thank the Executive Mayor, the MMC, the City Manager, the MD, and the Chief of Staff for availing themselves on this Sunday to be able to give residents an update on issues that relate to water, which the Mayor emphasizes that it is a human right for residents of Johannesburg to receive that service. Let me take the opportunity to thank each and every media house that was here, members of the media. Can you go out there and help us spread the message? And also we've included in the pack the statement by the Executive Mayor, the statement by the MMC, and the statement from Joburg Water. We've also included a list of water tankers, mobile and those that are not mobile, that are available for residents to be able to access water where they're having challenges. Can you help us to spread that information so that we are able to assist residents that are struggling as we speak, as we roll out these interventions that the MD has spoken about? Can you also help us to take the message across to all residents? Thank you very much. The briefing is concluded. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Can you